Hello and welcome to the Seer 365 sessions. So every week we get a different partner in the Microsoft ecosystem or Microsoft or customers to come in and talk about something interesting. And the idea is really not to make this a salesy podcast. The idea is to make it more of an interesting thing that we can all try and learn something from, even if it's just one small thing. The idea is to try and learn. So today, I'm really excited to be able to introduce you. Well, hopefully some of you'll know him. A guy called Nigel Ridpath. So, hello, Nigel.
Hi, Rich. How are you?
Living the dream, my friend. As I was saying, small 13-week-old baby at home. So, hence the bags under the eyes. For those of you listening on the podcast, I have massive bags under my eyes. So, Nigel, why don't you sort of tell me a little bit about yourself and and where you're from, Ardenfort-wise?
Yeah, sure. So nice to spend a bit of time with you this afternoon. I've been knocking around the Dynamics channel now for 15 years. Started off in CRM, was one of the co-founders of Cloud9 Insight, which some people will know well, I would guess. Went and did some stuff around coaching small IT businesses, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and then set up a business in 2019 called Carry Solutions, which was an SMB born in the cloud Business Central partner. Sold that business back in December and joined Ardenfort in March this year. Ardenfort is a UK-based company with a delivery capability over in Malta, and we do the full range of Dynamics products, but primarily focused on the smaller end of the finance and supply chain market and the CRM solution sets. So I'm business development director here. As you can imagine, Malta's a relatively small market, so we kind of run out of growing headroom there. So I'm over here, based in the UK, up in Oxfordshire, building our business in the UK.
Well, and for those of you, I want everybody to look at Nigel now, and you may well see him on a very famous TV show called Clarkson's Farm. So he doesn't know he's going to be on it yet, but I'm going to pretend he is because it's really funny if you haven't watched it yet. And if Lucy Bourne's listening to this, Lucy's a massive fan of Clarkson's Farm. So Lucy, you can get Nigel's autograph after this.
But just to say, Jeremy lives about 500 meters that way. So nice. He's in the same village as me. So we lock horns and rub shoulders, or whichever way you want to. That's fun and games.
Yeah, and if you are watching this live, feel free to add comments as we go. You can start with if you've seen Clarkson's Farm, and if you haven't, why not? So feel free to add some comments. So I was talking to Nigel to kind of talking about what we're going to talk about today, and something that we both are pretty passionate about is partner to partner. So for my sins, I'm the chair for partner to partner for the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners across EMEA. So really catchy name, the IMCP. And certainly from my start, I've seen partners working together has been really powerful. And I know that's something that you've done a lot of, Nigel, and got some interesting thoughts around.
Yeah, so I guess just standing back a little bit, a lot of people have heard of this concept, not least through your efforts, Rich, with the IAMCP. But it's this idea that you can work with other IT service providers to effectively swap leads or work together on opportunities. So rather than necessarily going out and generating your own leads, which you may absolutely want to do as well, this is a way in which you can work with other organizations to effectively work on their client base to to generate opportunities for yourself. And there's a number of models that we can go on to talk about.
So how do you do that at Ardenfort? What's the benefits that you see of working with other partners? It's just interesting to get some kind of real world experience on that.
Yeah, so I've done this a couple of times. When I set up Cowrie Solutions, we took the same model. We have a formal agreement with the partners that we work with, whereby if they introduce us to an opportunity and that opportunity results in business, there will be some form of recompense for that. And we tend to operate that in two different ways. Net it works out about the same, but we like to offer the flexibility. Sometimes and it's, I have to say, it's mostly Microsoft partners that we work with. That kind of makes most sense for us. And typically it's people who are MSPs or working in the modern workplace space. So they might be doing Azure and M365 and networking and interconnectivity, all of that sort of stuff, but they don't do Dynamics. That's typically the kind of partner that we have. So if they work with us, then we'll either take on the Dynamics bit as a project, and we'll pass back some sort of referral fee, or we can back it, whereby they keep the prime relationship, and we'll do work and we give them a buy price for our services. They are, ultimately it works out the same, and sometimes we we'll just decide which model is we're going to operate on a customer by customer basis. But there's a lot of evidence around to suggest for those sorts of partners, so the modern workplace partners, that actually they see an increase in modern workplace, and particularly things like Azure consumption, as a result of Dynamics being implemented in their customers. So yes, it's nice to get a referral fee. Quite often that sort of partner ends up keeping the licenses, and I'll come back to that one in a minute, because there's
that is an important bit. But yeah, so we'll come back to that.
There's some fun and games with Microsoft recognizing that. I'll come back to that in a second. But actually, probably almost the biggest benefit is they get a stickier customer, and they end up buying more of the stuff that those people do anyway. So it's quite an interesting model for them commercially. But ultimately, because they're making recommendations, and these are to their customers who they may have had for a long time, they need, the key thing is that there's trust in that relationship, that we as Ardenfort are going to do a job as well, if not better, than they would do in the sphere that they work in. That's critical. Otherwise you get nowhere.
Well, especially with the new cloud partner program, I think as part of that, you do need to be able to show an increase in customer adds, in monthly active usage, and whatever guise, be that. It doesn't really matter if you're doing data and AI, biz apps, or wherever it might be. I think having that ability to work with a trusted network, because I do think trust is quite a big part of this, because although the Microsoft channel is very large, it's also incredibly small. So it takes a long time to build up that trust, and one or two bad things happening, and then all that trust is gone, and you'll never get it back. So I do think trust is an incredible part of that, and that's where working with the same partners time and again to actually build that trust, and they understand how you work and they work. And to your point about modern workplace, especially with some of the new capability within Dynamics, where you're able to within Teams look at Business Central and F&O and CE without a license using. I keep on pronouncing it the wrong way. I think it's Viva, but I could be very wrong. That sort of thing for me lends a real new capability that you can give to customers by working together.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely true, and I can't underline the point more. The one that we're making about trust here, as you say, it's you've only got to have one fouled up project, and it's not just that partner that you're not going to do business with again. Word gets around very quickly, and you've got to have confidence. We're not saying that every project doesn't have its bumpy moments. We all know that they do, but it's about, at the end of the day, the customer getting that the business benefit that they're investing in, and if you can do that and make sure that there are lots of happy smiles at the end of the project, then you're in a good place. We sometimes partner with Dynamics partners that don't do the bits that we do. So it's not just modern workplace partners. In fact, one of my best relationships at the moment is with a partner that does do MSP, but they're also a BC partner.
Right.
But they have no intention of doing CRM, for instance, and they get opportunities for it, and sometimes they will get opportunities, for instance, that want to do BC plus CRM, and they know if they don't bring in a partner that does the CRM bit, they're not going to win the BC deal. So, so that's been really interesting, and I know that this conversation is about partners, about partner to partner, and not about Seer's products, but I think it is worth bringing out here how we're working, for instance, with that partner using Seer's Discover tool. So we've now made that partner quite familiar with the Discover outputs, and also had to fill out the questionnaires. And sometimes we've had 2 instances now with that partner where I've created a Discover survey for that partner for a prospect with a client they know really well, and they filled it out on behalf of the project, or on behalf of the customer. And then that's been able to give us some estimation and a fit gap and those sorts of things, and they haven't even needed the customer to do any work to get that far. So actually, in some of these, we're finding that having adopted the Seer 365 platform, we're actually finding that advantage in our partner-to-partner conversations.
I do, when people come on this podcast, I do tell them not to talk about Seer, and everybody has so far, which I really appreciate. It's very kind. But okay, that's cool. So you've obviously done this, a bunch of times. But so what would you say is kind of the gotchas? What have you tried that didn't work so well, or mistakes that you've made that others can learn from? That's a favorite way of learning for me.
I'd say the biggest issue is when, in a particular circumstance, the partner that we're working with decides to prime it, and we're doing back to back, and we haven't quite back to backed it well enough. So there are certain expectations that the customer has, there are certain expectations the partner has that we, where there's been misalignment, and that's problematic. Certainly the cleanest thing is for us to have that commercial relationship with the end customer. Then we're very clear, and we've got that, we've got that relationship there. But I also understand how some partners may want to. We never white label. I don't think that it only takes somebody three seconds on LinkedIn and they'll work out you're not part of their organization. It's pointless. So we're always upfront about the fact that we're not the same company. But if sometimes the customer insists on keeping the same prime, And you just need to be really careful about getting the expectations aligned in the back-to-back arrangement that you have.
Yeah, I think I completely. So I was laughing because the comment about LinkedIn is one I make quite a lot as well. It's literally pointless. Trying to pretend that you work one place when in fact you work somewhere else. And also I think it starts off the relationship on a lie. You can call it you can fudge it a little bit, but it's effectively a lie. So I completely agree with you. Yeah, but the back-to-back contract's really interesting actually, because I have seen it with customers who, for various reasons, not least the hassle factor on their side, setting up another vendor, want to go through a single contract. So, but I agree with you. I think keeping it separate is cleaner. But again, I think the important thing here is try and have that relationship with the wider ecosystem that's repeatable. And the more you do, the more you work with them, the better that relationship gets, and the stronger it gets. And that's where I think that weirdly doesn't happen that often. Sometimes it's kind of this one customer needs this one thing, so I have that one engagement with a partner, and I always think that's a shame because that's the hardest one to do. So the more you do, the better it gets.
And I think both parties have got when they set up that relationship of have got to it's not a tactical thing. It's got to be strategic. Sometimes we do get partners coming along with a bit of a one-off, but just not sure that works because it comes back to that trust thing. But I think once people have worked with you, once seen a good result, then the I wouldn't say the floodgates will open, but you will see that that repeatability in terms of being able to work together, and also you do get asked from the customer, so where have you guys how have you guys worked together before? How do we know that just because you're introducing Ardenfort, how do we know that they're the best partner for us to be working with? So you do get answered those questions, and it's much better if you can say, well, we've done 3 F&O projects together, and each of our customers have been delighted with them, and we wouldn't be using them if that wasn't the case.
Well, and obviously you can do it with deliberate campaigns into each other's install bases. Because if you've got one customer that wants something, it may well be that others and
particularly with the MSPs, actually, who do tend to have fairly large customer bases. They do tend to be, the perfect situation for us is to work with an MSP who sees the value in Dynamics, has no interest in delivering it themselves, but also has their customer base looks like the ones that we want, and then we can really work very closely together in maximizing the opportunity.
Cool. So on that then, the question being, how do you two know each other? Where was this relationship come from? How do you actually find partners to work with?
Well, the thing is that you probably need fewer partners than you think. In fact, by the time you've got to 20 plus, 30 plus, you're probably not really adding incrementally much value to your business. So you're much better working with a relatively small number of spot on ones. And so, we've done it primarily through, contacts that we worked with before in some format. We have had some introductions through indirect providers as well. So there is a little bit of that going on. Plus, going back to your point right at the beginning of this, which is, the Microsoft partner network is huge in the UK, but it's also quite small, and lots of people talk to each other, in a way and with an openness that is, sometimes a bit baffling, but that's the way it happens. You'll see MSPs recommending us, from one to another. Actually, if you're looking for a Dynamics partner, these guys are good. You ought to
Yeah.
work with them. So we get some referrals in for working on a P2P basis.
And let's face it, referrals are the best way of doing it. If you
Yeah,
can.
absolutely.
Not always
Yeah,
possible, I grant you.
Yeah.
And especially now where most partners don't have a direct relationship with Microsoft, I think that referral through your indirect provider is a great one. And actually, we are actually going to get an indirect provider coming onto the podcast in the new year in the form of a certain Will McKinty.
All right, there you go.
So yeah, I've got my bleep button ready to go. So we're all good there. I would also call out, because I kind of have to, the IMCP. If you become a member, there's a whole partner-to-partner community there, where which has just gone through a big refresh actually. So if it's something that you are interested in but don't necessarily have that Microsoft ecosystem network in place, then feel free to you can ping me. My email address is in the podcast thing, or if you're on LinkedIn, then you clearly know where I am. And I'll make introductions and all that sort of stuff as well, because I do think that is probably the strongest bit of the Microsoft ecosystem, is that network, and so to be able to do that is important. And I sometimes wonder with new partners how they actually without trying to do it without the network would be incredibly hard.
Yeah.
So we're kind of coming towards the end now. So what do you see the future being for partner to partner? Is there anything that you kind of see? I'm guessing you're about to say more of, not less of.
I think I'd look at that in two ways. One I think is positive, and one might be slightly negative. I think starting with the slightly negative one is there is more of it. There is more of it going on, and if you're a partner who puts partner to partner at the heart of their business, and we get more and more of those, there is I talked about referral fees earlier. There's a fairly standard idea about what that looks like in the business, in the industry, and I was thinking about this earlier. I think there's a chance that might get slightly inflationary, and almost like people, buying business by, offering the bigger referral fees and whatever.
So a race to the bottom line type thing.
Exactly, and I think that's a possible danger. But the more positive angle that I can see is, I think there's a real opportunity here for almost more formal tie-ups between people. I mean, we do have a some documentation between us, the partners that we work with, and so everybody knows what their role in the relationship is and what to expect. So there are no quibbles about that later. So there is formal documentation there, but I think that this may end up in some networks, some pretty tight networks of people that might be able to offer pretty much everything that that could come under the Microsoft banner, for instance. So whether it's SharePoint experts, Power Platform experts, Dynamics experts, BI experts, whatever that is, almost coming together maybe in a like-minded organizations, almost in as I say, in a network that I think that could be quite an interesting direction to see it move. So I think some more formal tie-ups.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously seen it in the Dynamics world. There's a famous organization, I won't bring it up on this one, but they've done that. But I think your idea of doing it across the stack is really interesting. I think that could be that could work out well.
Yeah.
Well, Nigel, thank you very much for your time today.
You're welcome.
So if you want to get hold of Nigel, I've got his LinkedIn details down below. But I really appreciate your time. I found it really interesting, and I look forward to seeing you on Clarkson's farm in the next few weeks for Series 2. But and apart from that, I'll see you for a Christmas beer in December.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. I hope you found it as interesting as I did, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation, Rich.
Always. Cheers, pal.
Cheers now. Bye.